Hey everyone. Welcome to another installment of our stock market recap days. And what we're going to go over today is what is actionable. In other words, what are we going to do about it Tuesday morning? So we're going to go through this, and you can use this as a compilation for the weekend as to what to study. Take notes, in my opinion, of key levels, actionable ideas, so you know where to be positioned and how to be positioned, and then we can kind of go from there. But I think it's really important that people consider using this as a template to learn how to trade and invest, and then what key levels are important. I never really I get into my background a little bit here, but I have been trading now professionally for over 20 years. So if there's a mistake out there, I've made it. So my goal here is to try to get people to not make the same ones. So let's just get right into it and just start going. Everything's in alphabetical order. As always, subscribe to this channel, click on notifications, because what we're going to go over here is really, really timely and very important. We've got a big week coming up, and it's going to be a good one. So let's just get right into this. AMC today. In pre-market, we did the pre-market call. For those that followed along with this, I hope you did well today. I was very clear on where these levels were. When we got up to above this, I was very clear that if you hold on, let me show you this on the weekly. So I said, if you get above this 30.55, which we did, we can get rid of these indicators, you're going to run. And that's exactly what happened. So now if you go and take a look at the first 5 minutes. So here you are, first 5 minutes. And then as soon as you came up, what happened? You formed a double top on it, right? You see the double top? Okay, that became clear that you may have an issue. Now, it comes back down, it tests, which they do this. They'll test you to see if you're going to come in or not. And then they run them back up. Now, if they don't run back up, then you probably have a short-term top in. And you see this right here? That was your signal that you have a short-term top. People recognize this bar as a long-legged doji, and you can see that it showed a change in trend, right? And there's your change in trend. So people that followed along, and then what I stated was, if you break below this level, you're going to go a lot lower. So I was pretty vocal today that I was shorting this all during the day, and you can go look at the timestamps on Twitter. And I just want to stress this. I'm showing these levels and stating what I'm doing so you can kind of follow along and understand the methodology of it. It's not an ego thing. So it's why I'll never talk position size or profit or loss. It's irrelevant to the learning. So when you look at what we have here, right, for those that have been studying candlestick patterns, you would recognize this as a possible evening star, a huge one, right? And no, it's not perfect because this really isn't a doji bar. But when you come up like this and you reject like this through a weekly rejection and then through the previous high, it's pretty clear you're exhausted. These do not just magically reverse the next day because everybody wants it to go to 500,000, right? It just doesn't work that way. So what you'll see happen today is this was a perfect setup by institutions getting retail to invest. And I understand that there's a lot of excitement with this name. We're going to run it up. We're going to show the banks what's going on. The institutional side has over $3.8 trillion to invest. Retail does not have a 50th of that. Keep that in mind when you're making decisions like this. So this was a great run, but sadly, it's come to an end very similar to this one. So can it turn and reverse? Yes, but you need to see this thing base for a while and work through this. You had a lot of people that got hurt really, really bad today. Really bad on options. People were buying options up here for $39 options that were supposed to expire today for $3, $2. There's millions, literally millions and millions that were lost today just in out of the money option expiration today. And that's going to be painful for this stock because all that gamma is gone now. Okay. Until, you come in next week and you have to start all over again. So if this cuts 24.17, you probably are going to go and retest up to that 18 level it could go to. So just understand that if you're in this, I would avoid. I closed out my short position. I just don't want the risk over the weekend. Who knows what Tuesday brings. It could open up here and then you have to make a decision. It could open here. You just don't know. But I do know that let me rephrase this. I do know with a high degree of probability that this is not taking out a new high next week. Okay, that much I can say. Could it? Sure, but I'd be shocked. This is pretty much when you see stuff like this come in, right? And you didn't even exhaust the selling. The selling is not even greater than the buying yet. So you don't even people didn't even puke this out yet. So it's telling you that there's possibly more selling coming in by learning how to read the volume. So that's AMC. If you have more questions on AMC and you're in it, I got a bunch of questions today. I'm very vocal about where I'm at with it and what my position is, but please email me at arete@arete.net. Some people don't want to just do it on on Twitter or Reddit because they don't want other people to know their position or DMs. That's totally cool. Just email me. That's the whole purpose of doing this. So 8 p.m., I just want to go over this very quickly. For the gentleman that's looking at this, you see how you rolled here, came down, tried to break a new high, didn't. 21 crossed the 50 to the downside. We're right here. And now here's your 200-day moving average. I see no reason why you need to be in this. Now, just to point this in perspective, and this is why I wanted to just go over it with you. See this red bar down? You've never even got halfway back up that red bar. A matter of fact, all you've done, if you want to get super technical, which I love getting, all you've done is this. Right? That's all you've done. And what does that look like? It looks like a bear flag, right? You're just out there flagging. So I would not go near this. I would let this tell you what it's going to do before I'd get involved with it. To me, it looks like it's going to try to rally up again and then roll again. And then this is a left shoulder. This is the head. That's the right shoulder. I don't know that, but that's what it's shaping up for. So this is just an outright avoid. ASO was one that we've had on the watch list for a while. And, it's interesting because I expressed that stocks have patterns, right? And see how this pattern's right here? And we were talking about this other line and it's got to break above this wedge. Look what happened when it broke above this wedge. So, and look where it transpired at, right in the 21-day, right? So you can see how these patterns exist. Here it is again. And what transpires when you follow those patterns. Question is, what do you do now with it? Like, this is great. I mean, this is just a slow mover. It's not bothering anybody. Nobody's screaming. It's just going up, right? Now you've gotten above this high. You can get to the top of this, but then you're going to come back in. So if you're long this, congratulations. When you get to the top of this, you may want to consider selling or look for a reversal if it doesn't break that. And then if it does break that, stay in it. But this is your level, 39, 37 right now. So just watch that level. I would not buy this until it comes back down and gets to the 21-day. That's the spot. I mean, you can say it over and over again. So ATER is shaping up. And I get asked about this one a lot. And I like the name. I understand why you're in the name. I get the growth. Here's your issue. I mean, just point blank. You went down 75%. When you go down like this and you have a massive channel like this takes a long time to come back. It's not like a day. It's not going to, very rarely does something break like this and then you get to the 200-day that you broke and then it just miraculously just goes. It's very rare that it happens the first time. And you can see that with something like FUBU, which we'll go over, and how FUBU looks better than this and why FUBU looks better than this. But what we did do is we did pop out of this channel and we did get above the 21-day, which we have not done since back here in March, right? So this is significant action. It's just not prime time action, right? And why is that? Well, let's start here too, just so you can see this level and understand where I'm going with this. See that level right there? You can't even get above that. that's your first break, and you can't even get above it to fill the gap, which would take you to here. You're having an issue with that. So until you get through the 21 day in this 1966, just sit on your hands. Just wait. If you pay up a little bit, you pay up a little bit. Everybody was very anxious to get into FUBU, and I just said, wait. And today you had the perfect opportunity. So that's the thing. If you love if you love FUBU at 26, when it pulls back down to 23 and change, 24 and change, and the chart has not changed, why don't you like it? So you kind of have to start thinking like that, maybe just a little bit differently. I would wait for this to come down, retest, and then see how it goes from there. BNTX, this, if we had a stronger day today and we had more volume today, this is setting up to go. Now, this closed right on a key level for me, and I wanted to go over this. I really like this name, and I really like what I'm saying. So what I want to do is just point something out. See how this 204 and you got over the wick and you reject, and you got over the wick and you reject? That means I have a seller up here. So when I get rid of that seller, which could be next week because this was a light volume week, when I get rid of that seller, that's all I'm going to need to see. And I'm going to get right through this. And once I get a close above this, it should go. And you can just see how this is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. Like this is not going to stay this tight. So just consider that. And we're looking for a breakout to this level. That's what you're really looking for. That's what you want to see. Crowd, this was the top end of the channels right here. I mean, we've been talking about it since this break down here at 190, and now we're at 225. Look, this is, again, very, very simple. All we're trying to do, right, is catch this. Right? That's all we were trying to do, is just catch the meat of this move inside this channel. We're not saying it was breaking out when we recommended it down here. The question is, what do you do now? This is how much of the move is left, right? So if you look at how much of that move is left after 30%, and even if we just take here, let's just say we take it off the break. So we don't, right? 25% we thought we had. Okay. So the question becomes, what do you have now? Right? Okay. So this is where you're at now. And I'm doing this to show you something. So this is where you're at. Okay. You're roughly at 10 points. You have 10 points left before you hit the top of that. Okay. So on a $200 stock, what is that? Okay. And it's 220. It's less than 5%. So why would I want to buy a stock that's going to run into major resistance when I have 5%? I don't, right? I want to buy it down here when I have all this. When the world's my oyster down here, right? Not up here when I'm going to start knocking against this. Does it break? Does it not break? Start looking for reasons that it should break. That's exhausting. I mean, we can waste our own time. We don't need to be buying stuff up here that's running into major resistances. So if you're in this, great, hold on to it. See if it breaks through this time. It very well could. I mean, look, here's the trade, right? I mean, breaking above this wedge is what everybody's waiting for. And you can see what's happening every time it gets to the top of that, right? Because here's the thing. If you are in a base and then you start taking out the higher highs within that base, chances are you're going higher. So that's what you're waiting to see. And so far, we've rejected there twice. So just keep that in mind. 225 is definitely an issue. If you reject the third time and you take out a lower low, you might want to get out and let it regroup and figure out what to do. DDD, our target was 34. Where'd we get to today? 33. And then we sold back down. Here's the thing. Let me just walk through this. I want to just see something. So, okay. So at that point in the day, from where we're in, hold on one second, we're up 22%. Okay, so one of the things that we talk about in the newsletter extensively is when you're up 20% to trim some of it off, right? Not a lot, but you can be anywhere from, 10% to, you could blow out the whole trade if you want. It doesn't really matter, but it can go from 10 to 100%, let's just say. But to have a system where you sell something so you lock it in, so that if this goes back to 26.5 and you get round tripped, you've at least made something. Right? If I did this and every time I went up 20% and I trimmed and then I got stopped out at my stop, that would mean I make 10% on every single trade. I'll do that all day long. I mean, they're home runs. When that starts compounding, you'll have amazing months. It's all about compounding. So what you need to understand is if you didn't do that, then you really need to be looking at your process. If this is what you're asking about, why you're asking about this today. Now, this bar today is not a great bar, but today's a light volume day. We were pretty clear on the pre-market call today. I hope I laid that out. Like, you're going to see very light volume today. You're not going to see a great day. And I got exactly what I expected today. Not a great day. So I expected to sell down. I expected, the accounts to basically not be red. I actually had a decent day because of the AMC, but I bought UPST. From where I'm at on the average in that position, I'm down, but I wanted to buy it when it goes down, right? I mean, I didn't want to buy this, just to point this out. I didn't want to buy this up here. I mean, I was very vocal about how to trade this, right? And what did this do today? It came down, and where did it stop, right? And we'll get into this, but where did it stop? It landed right on the wedge. So like if you have your lines drawn and it hits the wedge, where do you buy it? You buy it here. If it comes down $1 or $2 and goes into the wedge, you blow it out. Why? Because then you're back in the wedge and you can get back down to here. So you have to have a game plan, right? Okay. So that said, and I'm a proponent of, yes, it's a loss. Even if you don't sell it, it's still a loss. And I'm saying that for a reason. So when you're looking at stuff like this, the questions that you have to ask yourself are, what are you going to do when it gets to 34? What was your plan? Was your plan to sell it at 34? So just think a little bit like that. I know you're asking about the stock in specific, but there's more questions when I get these many people asking about it. It means that people are following the newsletter, bought the stock, watched it go from 32 to, or close to 33, and we're up 25% and lost probably half their gain today because they didn't have a game plan. That's what it sounds like to me with the messages that I'm getting. And I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at, like, we've all been there. We've all gone through this nonsense, and it's why you have to develop a plan. So whatever your plan is, okay, your trading system has a sell button. I would recommend that you use it, especially if you're trying to trade. If you're following these programs that I'm putting out there, okay, it's very clear that I do short-term trades, long-term trades. There's stuff I will be in for a day. There's stuff I've been in for years, right? It just depends. But if you're following this, we're doing this to be active. We're not buying DDD because we read a research report on the earnings and we know that aerospace is going to increase, and over the next 3 years, the stock should be 80. Now, we're buying it based upon a technical pattern.
Market data connection loss.
And there's the little English guy. So what I'm getting at is, at the end of the day, you just have to think like that.
Market data connection reestablished.
All right. So let's just keep going. I'm just going to let the English guy go today. I want to go figure out how to turn that off right now. DMTK. Let's go through this. So let's get back to this because I went on a rant. Look, this is simple. Okay. This is your stop, right? If you didn't sell, tough. Okay, this is your stop, 26.50. I mean, it is what it is. You can always sell. You could sell now. You'd be up 10%. If you bought at 33, I don't know why you did that. I don't know what you saw technically coming into this resistance line, why you would have bought there. But if you're in from the levels that we've been talking about for about a week now, okay, if you didn't sell, tough. You know better for next time to set up an actual process. And then when it goes to 26.5, you should be getting stopped out, and get stopped out at 26.5. Don't hold it because you needed to get its vengeance back and make a profit on it. It does not work that way, right? It'll go to 26.5 and then 24, and then you have a 20% gainer that turned into a loss, right? Like it can always get worse. Just remember that. Just remember those words. It can always get worse. I don't think that's going to, that stock is going to, but I'm just trying to paint a very ugly picture so you understand the methodology behind trimming. It's like RBLX. I didn't really want to sell RBX at 90, but you need a system. All right, let's go. DMTK. So here you are, and what happened? We got right to the 50-day, which I said we have to close above in order to buy, and we rejected. Very little to talk about here. Until this gets above the 50-day and closes above this wedge, we don't want to go near it. And what did it do? Hit the 50-day, was like a hot potato, and decided it wants to stay under the wedge. Doesn't want to come out. Wants to be an ostrich. Leave it alone. Let it do its thing, and we'll go from there. I really like this trade. I think this trade could be massive. I really believe that. Just the technicals that I'm seeing, I like the base. I like how also, see how these are getting smaller and smaller? It just means that the volume, we're getting exhausted, right? And very similar to a larger daily pattern in what I showed you with like UPST on the volume, small red bars. Instead of red bars, we're using the patterns to determine, right, whether or not the exhaustion's happening. Maybe, hopefully follow that. So wait for that to happen. Wait for it to pop over there before you do anything. Frog was a name that we just haven't really heard about a lot. And this was a perfect breakdown and then gap, right? So here you are. And we just went through this with OKTA the other day and just we're walking through this in TTD. So here's what's going on with this one. When you broke down here and you undergapped all of this, that's a signal, right? When you reverse like that. As soon as you reverse like that, you can actually wait for it to come down, retest like here, and buy something like here, and then just use this as your stop, right? It's like $1. If you get stopped out, you get stopped out. You just go to the next one. That's what you can do. Now the question is, what do you do? Well, now you know that you have negative news out, and the stock has essentially gone right back to its gap level. So you really don't have an edge right now, right? And you have major resistance staring at you in the 50-day. So to me, this is a non-event. And I have a lot to get through, don't I? Like just a lot to get through. So I don't see any reason. I mean, you have this huge pattern right here that you have to get to. And you're just not there. So you're going to have to get through that. But for now, I would hold off. I would not go near this. Doesn't mean I'm right. It's just my opinion. So Finch, I stated it needed to do something if you wanted to buy it, right? We talked about this 2-3 days ago, FTCH. It had to get above this wick because it was having trouble with this wick. What did it do yesterday? Got above that wick. That's really what you wanted to see. That was your pivot buy, right? The question is, what do you do now? Well, we went right to the 200-day where it meets the 50 and we converged. Now, the fact that we rejected, you're like, oh, it didn't go. This is actually like a blessing in disguise because you came up, tested, and you're giving the 50-day another day or two to get right on it, right? So here's your pivot. Okay. If you get above this 47.25, right, let's call it 47.50, which will probably put us like right near this line, right? Chances of us getting through that wick, hitting this and rejecting are very, very slim, right? I mean, the bar would have to be a 50-cent range and you don't even have 50-cent ranges. I mean, if you look here, your smallest range on any bar, like this bar I'm on right now is one of the smallest. And this is $1. So the probability of getting through that, I hope you follow the logic there. If you get through 47.50 and this is at 48, there's no way that you're not breaking the 50-day. It should break the 50-day if that happens. So keep that in mind if you really want to be in this. And that's what you're looking for. A higher high here, through the 200, through the 50, and boom. And look at this pattern. I mean, this is doing everything right here, right? I mean, here's your pattern. Right? You not only broke here, you broke here. I mean, this is perfect. And the 21 days there. I mean, there's a lot there to buy this on yesterday. Today, not so much. Now you have to wait and get through the 50-day and then go from there. Fubu did exactly what Fubu does. And, we talked about this early this morning that we're going to see a lot of failed breakouts because it's going to be a light volume day. And I just used it as opportunity. I mean, I really can't be any clearer. From where I'm in, I believe I'm down a little bit in the trade, maybe like 50 cents, but I'm really not worried about it. I mean, we settled right on the 200-day, which is roughly right where, like, let's zoom in on this. I mean, institutional buying's just sitting there picking it off. They might even take it down and then run it back up. But this is not done. You're not going to go through all this and now roll. That's not going to happen. See, what you have to pay attention to is the larger trend. When this starts turning up, which it's doing, and the 21 is going to cut through the 50, this might knock around for a little bit, but this is not going to go, these averages are not going to go up and then come back down. It doesn't work like that. That's what's so important when I say, when they start to roll like up here, like they just don't go away. They become resistances and they become supports. And this is exactly what you want to see. Now overlay that with the 5 and the 8 and how they're respecting it. I'm very comfortable with my position. Would I liked if it reversed and took out 26 3/4? Sure. But this sell-off gave me the opportunity to buy it 10% away from there so that when it gets up to there, I can just move my stop to break even. If it doesn't happen, no harm, no fuss, no muss, right? That's what I'm looking for. So just keep that in mind. I do like this trade. The sell-off today meant nothing to me. I totally expected the weakness today. I hope I was pretty clear with the pre-market call today. I think I was. GME, I actually did think that this had more oomph in it today. I guess maybe the telltale sign was how muted the move was yesterday. I thought that this was going to get up and run up to here. I just don't see any real resistance. But instead of that, what it did was open at the top of this bar and engulf the entire bar and close at the low and break. And I think it's down even more after hours. Hold on one second. Yeah, I mean, and you've broken the 225 level. So at this point, this is just, you need to avoid this. I don't want to hear diamond hands, and we're going to show the market what it's going to do. It's telling you it's going lower, right? If they can't hold these things up today, they never were actually the ones holding it up. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's the institutions, it's the algos that made, the volume there that drove it up, that made you think that you guys were doing it. And I hate to be that brutal with it, but that's what it was. It was a play. And it's, the one thing in the newsletter that I always say, and I know I'm going to irritate people when I say this, first off, get rid of any notion that we're going to be able to determine and predict what's going to happen. None of us can predict what's going to happen. Anyone that tells you a prediction and says that I'm sticking by it, they don't understand the market's dynamic. It's like target prices. We come out with a target price so we can determine where we're at. But the one thing, and we can determine our risk and return that way. The one thing I keep saying in the newsletter, and I hammer it over and over again because it's true, okay? When you are investing in the stock market, you are playing against the smartest, most disciplined people in the world, right? You just are. You're not playing against mom and pop on E-Trade at home. You're playing against large money whose job it is all day to figure out how to take your money. That's all they're trying to do. They're trying to win all day, every day. So you need to act like that's who you're playing against, right? You got to get that through your heads. Like, I hate to hammer this point home, but when you think that a bunch of people are moving this, yeah, I'm sure that at one point they could have squeezed GME and they did a hell of a job at $30. But to think that they're the volume and they're the ones doing it, it just doesn't work that way. So I'd be very careful buying this now. And I would understand that. And that's why I keep saying, like, use your advantage, right? Your advantage as a trader versus any large institution is that you are more mobile than they are. Right? So you need to use that to your advantage. You need to have a plan and execute that plan within their plan. And if you do that, you'll be successful because you'll be able to utilize their leverage. You'll start to learn where they're going to buy, and then you can get ahead of them and get a position off. Okay? It's one of the reasons why you see the majority of buying at the end of the days at 2:30, 3 o'clock, sometimes right in the last 15 minutes, because the institutions don't want you to see what they're doing, right? They want to get in ahead of you. So just keep that in mind. To get back to GME, it's a bearish engulfing. You don't go near this. We can actually look at some monthly charts today because it's the end of the month, and you can see what's going on here. You have a long-legged doji. That's not really what you want to see. You have inside month again on this, but you have the outside month here. This is not something that you want to be playing with at all right now. Anything can happen. Sure, they could run it up again, but not with my money. I have no interest in that right now. So GoPro was one that we had at the, looks like we had him before on the daily, and I liked it. I think we broke out up here. We bought it on the break, and then just the way it traded, and then we were just in a weak tape, and I think I just said close it. So what do you do with GoPro now? You see this trend right here? Okay. And then you're getting above this level. You can't get above that 50-day. See that? See how you can't get above that? You need to watch that. That's a real issue. And on top of that, this one's negated because we broke out of it, and now you have this one. And how's that going? You're sitting right on it. If you take out a lower low, you're rolling, and now you're in this trend, right? It's actually over here now. Hold on. You're actually over here. So you're in this trend. So that means you could come down to these levels, $8. So I would be cautious here. It's not the move you want to see. And I mean, you did complete that little evening star pattern, but I would just watch these levels. I mean, if you break the 50-day, this support line, and the downward trend line, why do you want to be in it? So you just use those levels and on your stop. IWM, I was asked about today. I had a really nice move in it, and I was looking to buy TNA, and then it just did this, and there was no reason to buy. Nothing's changed. I mean, we had a nice little gap up, and then you didn't even take out, like, here, look. Nothing's changed on IWM, right? You gapped up, and you closed right where the previous close was. It's just a boring day. It just felt bad because people bought the breakouts, right? In a tape we had no volume. So that was very easy for like people to make money off of us today, right? All they had to do was run them up and make you think you were going to miss out. And then they lured you in, right? With classic little breaks like this. Oh, it's breaking the 200, and then retail runs in, and then they just slam it down. And they did it all day across the board. So what do you do now with this JMI? You can't do anything until it gets above this 200-day. And right now, considering what they just did, you got to get above that wick before you buy it. That's what you have to do, because now you have all that retail in there that just wants to break even. So you got to get rid of all that supply beforehand. So you have to get through $31 at this point on JMI. That's your pivot. I still like the name. I still think that this has massive potential. The pattern reminds me a lot of the DMTK we talked about. KOPN, this was kind of interesting today. I usually stay away from the smaller ones, but look at this. We've had this level in here forever, right? And you'll remember this one. We were in this one from the newsletter at 11, and then it kept hitting 12, and it couldn't break. We were in it back here, right? I don't know if you remember this one or not, but for those that follow the newsletter, and if you don't, it's free, and there's a link in the description. But you can see right here, right? Couldn't get through. And so we just said, you know what? It's a third time's a charm. No, it's not. All right, let me just get out, regroup when I get through 12. It was the smartest thing we did, because then it came back down. But what do you do now? Okay, so now you have this move. You're through this. You have not been through that except for up here, right? So how many days were we closing above it here, right? Just the one, we can say one day. And this is a much more thrusty close than this. So really what you want to see at this point, here's your 50-day, 837, you're at 810. 850 or above, you could look at using that as a pivot to get into it, and that could take you to $10. There's very little resistance in here once you get through that. And the 5 and the 8-day without even having them in, I can just tell you look great. Yeah. I mean, they're just being respected. So that's pretty much it. I like that trade. I do. I just have to get through that level. Path, I just want to review this. We went through this yesterday, and this did exactly what we said it was going to do. Okay. When you come up, right, we stated very clearly that this was done. We were back in the gate. And what they did was they opened it and they jammed it up so everybody would think that at this time it's really going to break out, right? and then it came back down and cut through that because everybody puked it at the end of the day, because nobody wanted to hold it and just take their losses. This will have another massive down day, in my opinion. It's going to break this, and then you could actually take a look at it. That's what I think happens. And then it's got to build. It could take a week, but then it's going to build and then go from there. A lot of people are very interested in this name, but people were just absolutely played today on this. You can just see exactly what they did. They knew exactly what to do. Look, we're going to jam it up. Everyone's going to think they're missing it, right? It didn't even close there on that bar, and then they opened this bar on it, and then that was it. And then you just step off the bid and see who's really going to buy it, right? It's very simple. And that's what happened here. So you just be aware that, like on low volume days next time, that this is what happens. They play games. P-ton, this was one that was down here that I was shorting, and, very clearly I thought it was going to break, and it just didn't. And I got out of it, obviously. But what's going on now? What's happening here? What are we going to do about what is transpiring right now? The 21 is pointing up, the 50 is pointing up, and I am at the 200 and can't get above it. The one thing I do like about this is I have this huge rise. I never came back down and tested, ever. Okay. And now I'm just building a flag right under the 200 day. So I would let this develop and build a flag, let these averages catch up, get over the 200, and it's probably actionable. And your first resistance from that actionable move is not until here. So this could have a move. This could still have a 15, 20 points, just 15 just to here. And then when you're through this, you're done with all this, you're up to here. So this is setting up for higher prices. You have to get through the 200-day first. QQQs were up 29 basis points. I was asked about these, so we're just going to show it real quick. You opened, you closed, and you tried to hit a high, and they just ran it up like everything else and then just stepped away and sold down all day. That's it. I mean, that's what they did. Nothing's changed here. Still looks good. Nothing to do. RBLX. So now what do we do with this? Very simply, what do you do with this? To me, I think this is pretty clear that we ran back up. Okay. Our target price was $100. If you didn't trim, I sure hope you did today. And if you look at this, this is a classic reversal. So you didn't open or close above the old high. They jammed it above it. So you would jump in and buy. And then they closed this low lower than here. And they're sitting right here. So just so you know, for the newsletter, I'm going to tell you exactly where your new stop is. Our new stop is a close below this line or this 87.50. Okay, whichever happens. If the 87.50 happens first, that's the stop. That is below this pivot right here, right below that bar. I don't want to be in it any longer if that happens. But up here, if I close below this line, this one, forget about this one. This was like the ultra one that was going to like propel us higher. But if I close below, let's get rid of this trim so that people are not confused. If I get below this line and close below this line, whether it's 91, 92, whatever it is, I'll be 100% out of the trade. I will not be in that trade any longer. Then if it closes during the day at any time below 87, I'm gone. I'm out completely. So I'm going to just take my profit and just wait and find another entry into it. But I don't know that that's going to happen unless some news comes out. My hope is that this was just selling based upon today being a weekday, and that we'll see a rise. But you cannot chase that here. Absolutely not. So SE. So we have a lot going on here. We're going to get rid of these indicators. We're just going to look at price. So here was this trend line, right? And it broke here and negated, and then it got through it. But let's get rid of this one. Okay. So here's our resistance, 261.55 that we left in. And see how the stock's acting? It can't break it. And also this line is converging right on the long-term upper trend line. Okay. And you're having a hard time staying above it, aren't you? So we don't know really what next week brings because of the action. But before you buy it, I would want to be above this and above this. Hands down, you want to be above those levels. That's 261.50. What is it, 55? So you're looking at 261 3/4. Snow, you should be out of this. I mean, this was really bad action today. Really bad action. You didn't even get a higher high. They couldn't even play games with it today. And they couldn't even keep it above 241. They couldn't open it above 241, and they couldn't close it right above 241. So this was bad action. I would be out of the stock. What would get me in it? Very little right now. But right now, your next pivot is 246.50. You have to get above that. If we throw in the indicators, you have this huge volume and you had hardly any interest at all today in follow through. Zero. To me, it just could have been short covering yesterday, maybe. I don't know. I wasn't in the trade, but just consider that. You need those key levels. I put this one in because it's one that we don't really look at and it's acting excellent. I really like this. And, it looks like I may have a little time here, and I'm going to do Bitcoin at the end of this. As always, subscribe to this channel, click on notifications because what we go over is timely. And when I do the live shows, it's very difficult for me to say 8:45 every day. And I know that if you subscribe, they send out a little notification. So STIC. Now, right here. Now, also, someone sent me a way that I can send a link to the live shows. I tried to do it. It was disastrous. So if someone has another way to do it, just email me or send me on Twitter how to send the link for the live show directly to Twitter or wherever we're going to send it so that I know how to do that. So here we are at 11:30 on this, right? And you're right at this breakout bar. Look at this. You're right there. And look where you closed. So if you get through this, right? And let's just go here. We know the indicators and we know we're above the 50, the 21. We know we're above the 50, right? So what's more important is this volume. I don't know what the news was today, but this is telling you that somebody wants to own the stock. And you're seeing this volume at the very bottom of the channel, not at the top. So we like that. We like that a lot. 10 looks awesome. See how it's respecting this upper channel? And it's heading for this one. So this is awesome. And we've talked about this on a much longer time frame. And now you have the end of the month, right? And look at this. I mean, man, if you get through 1629, there is there is literally nothing to stop you from getting the $22. Nothing. There's no resistance here at all. I mean, you would have to go back to find somebody that is still in this from 2009 or 10. Let's see if we can find that level. You have to find someone from like 2009 that's still in there that hasn't gotten out yet, right? So you're okay here if you can get above this. And also notice how this 21-month moving average is curling now, finally. So this is setting up. And if you get through 1629 on the monthly, and you can even play this line on the daily chart and just start using that line as your, as a guide. But then you get to 22.24. It looks like you could do that fairly easy. I like that trade a lot. Tilray, what is this? I don't know what all this is. Hold on, let me just go to the daily. The heck was all that? All right, so let's remove this text. Oh, it must be, this is all from when we were in this before, I think. Yep. All right. So this is when we were in it from before. We're going to start with the weekly on this. I don't really need this. This is before when we crushed it on this trade. So and we actually got a lot of this move on this trade. So here, I want to show the weekly because I think it's really important what's happening here. And the monthly is too small because of the nonsense move it had. So you can see the inversion here. And so like this is a huge issue now, right? But you see how you came down and now you're riding this level. You're still under this 21 day, which is like $20. So, or 21 weeks, which is like 20 and a half. So just be careful. It's still kind of wonky. So I want to start there, and now we're going to overlay it with this. You got to the 50-day and what happened today. Okay, they're not buying these anymore on the news. They're running them on the news. And if you really want to be in this sector, and I thought somebody or a couple people asked for this one. If you really want to be in this sector, avoid TLRY. There's just too many shares outstanding, and this chart looks amazing, right, for what's going on out there right now. We broke this wedge. We got to get above this line. If you can see this line right here, let's move this wedge line out of the way. And then let's just put this in so you can see what I'm talking about, right? See how you're above that? You know, you're setting up to get above this level next, this. So you're really setting up here. Let's throw these indicators in. Yep. So you would get above the 50-day, and then you have to deal with the downward trend. So it depends on your risk tolerance. But you get through 48. This is gone. This is going to run. I would tell you to focus on this more than Tilray. I mean, it's just a much better chart. You know, look at the difference, right? So that's where I would be. Tesla I was asked about. You know, I thought it was going to go today. I thought it had a clear shot up. If we had some momentum, we opened up. We did okay off the open from the options I bought yesterday, enough to get out, but not real profit, not real anything. Just disappointing. I thought it would go. It didn't. So, you know, what do you do now with it? Well, you're still above that 21-day moving average. A matter of fact, all we did was that was our low, wasn't it? So I don't really think there's anything to concern ourselves about here. Let's just hang out. Let's watch it. Let's let the trade develop. There's nothing that needs to be done right now, right? Nothing's broken. We didn't even take out a lower low. So let's just watch that. UPST, there's just nothing actionable. I went to cover it, but there's really nothing actionable to do right now on it. So UPST. So let's just look at this for a moment, right? And I mean, I'm just going to walk through this so you guys can see this trade today. So I'm going to click here, and I'm just going to show you something that I was doing. And I'm going to do an RSI video with some advanced techniques. So I'd recommend that you watch the old RSI video that I first did when I first started this channel. Just so you can get a sense of RSI a little bit. I'll link that somehow in here, maybe at the end. So, yeah, I'll link that video as the video to watch at the end of the screen, because I think it's important to watch that video and learn RSI. So this is just very simply the 1 minute, and I just want to point this out. So with these buys, okay, this was pretty easy stuff today to trade, and it wasn't pretty, and I'm not overly up in it because it kept going down, but there were very clear signs today that you could buy and then get a little bit of a move and get ahead of it. Now, some of those moves are very simple, right? Like you see how you're down here. Let me just get this for a moment on this. So you see where you are right on this line. You see how this one's higher, right? So what's happening? I'm dropping down, and this is getting the magnitude's going up. Okay, so this is a little advanced because it's actually a different than when you would see a positive divergence, right? But you see how this is going up, and the stock during this period of time is going down. It's a negative divergence, but you can trade off of it. How can you trade off of it? If you're going to hit a trend line and it happens, and you have a negative divergence, you need to watch it. So I had this negative divergence, right, where they're making us think that it's going to come back down by the magnitude of the move. And then what type of pattern do they have right there? Right? They have a Morningstar pattern. And then what happens on that? Boom, it just goes up. So you're able to get in it. You can go look at the timestamps when I'm in this just to kind of mark where this happened. But then you get in it, it goes up. You trade out of some of it wherever you want to. You could sell it on some on this bar. You could sell some up here. Candidly, I sold some on this rip. And then I said, okay, I'm just going to move the stop back to where I'm in. And guess what happened? I got stopped out. And that's okay. I mean, it happens. All I did was get back into it. But it gave us more opportunities, right? And this was, here, let me get into this one. So here was another opportunity that it gave me. See how this is dropping? right? See how you're dropping here and this is starting to go higher, right? It's a little bit of a negative divergence. Where does that negative divergence happen? So, and I understand this is a little different than what I went through before on the basic, but I want you to understand the concept. So here I am on the negative, stock's going down, RSI can't hit a new low, hits this trend, and what happens? Consolidates, bounces, right? And then you can just see that this is staying in contact with it. Now, when you got down to here and we sold off, candidly, I did nothing here, right? But just get back to this. So here we're selling down. And as we're selling down here, let's look at this. See where you are here and how you sold down right at this 153 level. And then you come again and you're here. And then you're here, right? Do you see that? Hopefully you're seeing what I'm putting down, how this is turning. So you really need to watch that. You really need to watch these, right? And then you can see these reversals. Like, so you look at this line, every single time that you undercut that trend line, right? Every single time you undercut this old low, what happened? You bounced every single time. So there's a lot of different ways to use RSI, and all it's doing is getting you in like I'm using a 1 minute chart. All it was doing was getting me in on a starter position or an additional position to a position I already have. And all I was doing with it was getting in, letting it go up a couple points, cutting some of my risk down, and then just moving it to break even. And guess what kept happening to me? I kept getting stopped out. But that's okay to keep getting stopped out. You're better off, right? I'm better off getting stopped out up here, right, than riding it down to here and then wondering what I'm supposed to do with it. So just keep that in mind. ZIM is going to be the, you know what, I'm going to do Bitcoin too while we're here, just so people can see this, because that's kind of important right now. People need to kind of know what's truly happening there technically. So ZIM I was asked about, and I'm going to get rid of the RSI for this. Let me just throw these on, put this over here, click on this properties, and get rid of RSI. Okay. So, okay. This was your buy. Okay. So someone asked me about this today and was saying, do I buy it now? No, you do not buy it now, right? You have to, even if you get through this level, right? Even if you get through that level, now what's the point, right? You have 3 points. If you want to play for 3 points, yeah. But so far, here, why wouldn't it respect it this time? So you have to keep that in mind. That's why I wouldn't buy this right now. I think it looks great. We called the trade out down here, something just to stay with. I'm not sure, the gentleman that was in it that gave me a stop, I'm not sure why that was your stop. So you might, if you want to, you can send me why that was your stop, and then we can kind of go over that. Because your stop really should have been the low of the bar or the break of the 21 day. That way you're not playing catch up, right? You're better off just, this is the loss I'm going to take. And then when it happens, it happens. So I just want to go over this because there's a lot of people that are buying this, and a lot of people are getting some, in my opinion, some really bad information. So, what's happened here is very textbook stuff. Okay. We drew this line, this trend line on Bitcoin here. Okay. We drew it a couple days ago. 1, 2, 3, when everyone's getting all excited because it's rallying again. All this did, it never could even get to this 42 level ever again. It's never closed above the 50-day or the 200-day moving average since this one day. It's not even able to stay above it. Now it's hitting it and rejecting it. Okay. So there's something going on here, and you just need to be aware of this. Okay. You see this line? This is a rising wedge line. Okay. This is your falling wedge line. Okay. This is a bear flag. Okay. So this is setting up to go much lower. I know people don't want to hear that, because they're in it. But if you are just a technician, whether this is Bitcoin or Kellogg's or Tesla, this is setting up to go lower. I mean, this is setting up for a big break. And the first thing is, if this rising wedge here is the one that breaks, right, which is like, this is the perfect weekend for it to happen too, right? Because you have 3 days and it trades 24/7. So this will be your first resistance is $29,000. So just keep that in mind if you're in that. And if you're not willing to be able to go here, and if you break this level, there is nothing until 23,000. Now it can always catch, do whatever it wants to do, but I'm just telling you from a technical standpoint, everybody that's been following me for a while will understand this pattern, and it looks like an H. And we're not even at the low end of the H yet to test this, right? The low end of the H is 28,000. So if this is something that you want to own, I'm going to give you my opinion of it. You have time. I'm not saying not to be invested in this. I owned it. I owned the other one too, and I never pronounce it right, and I always get corrected by people, Arete. But I really like both of these names longer term. I do not think they're zeros, but if you don't think that this was too much too fast, you know, this is not an inflationary hedge when you move like this. It's just not. It's insane, and it has to correct, and it's going to, and then it'll come back years later. But my point is, from here, you're probably going to here, right? And if you don't hold here, you're going to here. So that's it, everyone. Enjoy your weekend. Tomorrow, we are not doing the live event. I'm going to do the live event Monday night, probably around 6:30. I'll let everybody know. And I'll just post the top 10 video myself tomorrow as normal. Just pop it on. All right, everyone, have a great weekend.